Okay, good to have you join us today on Youth Assembly. It's a new week, and I hope you are having the best of your Mondays already. Well, today we look at 2020 by-elections, the voter apathy witnessed among Nigerian youths, and the future of elections in Nigeria. My name is Sylvia Ishebe. Well, I have today also with me Nefisa Atiku, who is a lawyer and an author. Welcome, Nefisa.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
All right. So the recent by-elections held across some states in Nigeria were seen as an opportunity for Nigerian youths to make their voices heard through the ballots in the aftermath of the NSAS protest, and especially in Lagos, which was the epicenter of the protest. However, with many were left with voter apathy and were left disappointed at the elections as it was characterized by voter turnout, low voter turnout, promoting many to ask where are the youths, where were they when the elections were happening, and what can be done to mobilize Nigerian youths to show up during the elections. So, Mr. Fisa would like to answer the questions. Are you still
Okay.
with me?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, it logged me out for a
So
second,
we'd
so I
like to
had
answer the questions. What was the problem that there was a low turnout of voters at the election?
I can't seem to hear you. Can you hear me? You seem to have frozen.
Okay. Can
Hello,
you hear
can you
me?
hear me now? Yes, I can hear you now. You froze for a bit. I didn't know whether it was my network or it was.
Oh, sorry about that. So the question we're asking is why were they low turnout of voters, especially the youths, during the by-elections that happened in some states in Nigeria, especially Lagos State, where people said was the epicenter of the NSAS protest. What happened in those states?
Yeah, I
So
got the
during
question.
yes, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So if read a lot of things, especially as regards the by-elections that happened in Lagos, that there was a low turnout. Why is the Sorosuke generation not entirely speaking out at the polls, etc., etc. And first of all, we have to consider one thing. We have
Mhm.
constantly said to INEC that there should be a continuous voter registration process, which they have not, adhered to. Basically, PVC registration is going to start in the beginning of next year. That's January 2020.
Okay, we'll try to establish connection with Nefisa once again. She's back here now.
I'm sorry, it keeps logging me out. I don't know why. Anyway, let me just quickly go ahead and try and round
Okay,
it up.
please
Yes,
do.
there is no continuous voter registration process. So to be honest, I personally, the struggle to get my own voter's card was immense. The process is by no means easy at all. So you have a lot of people that have entered the age of 18, that's the age of majority, where they can actually vote, and people that
Mhm.
were not able to get their PVC at the last voter registration period because it was really, really tough. And I'm not going to lie. And then you do not have a continuous voter registration period that allows people to pick up their cards when they want to. Of course, a lot of people that wanted to show up at the polls and vote for the candidate they wanted could not do that because one, they do not have their PVCs. Number two, if in the light of everything that is going on, in the NSAS protests and everything, we do need leaders that connect with the people and understand the basis of the struggle and why exactly the young people are agitating. And to be honest, we do not feel that was reflected in the candidates that they sought to bring out. So we're saying, okay, we want a change, but we're not that desperate to just accept anything and everything that comes out. That's how I put it. That season has passed where, oh, you just vote this person because this person is someone you are desperate for anything. We were desperate for change in 2015, and this is where it has led us. So to be honest, I feel like a lot of young people, not only did they not have their voters card, felt that there was no better alternative for them to select at the polls, which in itself is not the best approach when it comes to trying to effect gradual social change step by step. But to be honest, none of the candidates I feel reflected the pulse of the people. And those are real reasons why I'm sure a lot of young people didn't bother to even come out to vote. They probably thought that it wasn't worth their time. A lot of them are focusing on the strategies on how to break the hold in 2023 and make sure that they put out candidates that reflect their aspirations and visions.
But do you think that's the best strategy? You don't have the best candidates on ground, and you decide to not come out and vote on
No,
election day.
no, that's what I said.
Right.
I do not feel like as if it's the best strategy,
Okay.
but I feel like as if that might have been the mindset of most of the young people, given from the interactions I've had.
Okay. So in explaining also, some people have said why Nigerian youth did not show up. Some commentators said that the youths boycotted the election because they were not happy with the main political parties that were on the ballots. So they boycotted the elections. While in some cases, the youths that complained on social media are not usually the ones that show up during elections. People have argued. So why do you think this has become a trend in most elections conducted so far? Okay. We need to get the visa back here to answer these questions. Please bear with us. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sorry, it keeps on logging me out. I don't know why it does that, but I'm here now. You were saying that the youths that complain on social media are usually not the ones that actually come out to vote.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
So youths complaining on social media, that's the question I asked. That they're not usually the ones that come out during elections to vote. So why do you think this has become a trend in most of the elections conducted so far? Some people are on social media voting in their own right, and then others are supposed to be out there. The youths are supposed to be out there voting, but we see the difference in these cases. What do you think is responsible, Nafisa?
To be honest, I will put it down to accessibility. Case in point, Big Brother Niger. People don't really like to understand this fact, but it is once in the Big Brother Niger house. Twitter is as much as putting on your phone and then tweeting. Am I duplicated for some reason?
No, no, no.
Okay, cool. No problem. So yes, Twitter is as easy as putting on your phone and tweeting and voting on polls or whatever. The voter registration process to collect your PVC in this country is extremely terrible. I'm telling you, you're dealing with numerous middle class working class young people that have to be at their offices from 8 down to 9. Where exactly are they going to find the time to get their PVCs? They can come to Twitter and shout because it's literally easy to just log on to Twitter and do whatever you need to do. But to get the PVC, the first time I wanted to get my PVC, I was in university. I spent nothing less than a week lining up in the morning from morning till night trying to get my PVC. Or not to talk of when I wanted to transfer my PVC from Enugu down to Lagos. I was waking up in the morning. I will get to the Ugudu local government and I will write my name and I'll be number 700 and something. And I'm getting there around what time? Like around 6:30 a.m. in the morning. So if the voter registration to collect your PVC, that system needs to be broken down to be seamless and be easy so that people can get their PVC. And honestly, I am sure that is a very, very huge hurdle. It's a huge problem. People that work in banks, they have to take permission or their how like their superiors have to tell them, no, today is your day to go and collect your PVC. And that is if you have a boss that is understanding and aware of the civic duties that you're supposed to have in your society. So honestly, it all boils down to INEC. How do they want to make this voter registration process
But
is
before
not.
the registration, we still have people who have their voters card already, youths. I mean, from the last elections, the general elections, we had the youth population topping the list of people who had a PVC, who were registered voters. So what happened to
Yeah.
those people who are still youths?
Well, I think we need to do a deeper research on those youths that actually do have their PVCs. There are a lot of dynamics. See, like I tell you something, there's a huge thing that comes with voter and civic education. And to be honest, I'm not trying to how will I put it discriminate against people. But a
Okay.
lot of those other young people, which I am sure that do have their PVCs, are the ones that, how will I put it, they are mostly likely in the lower middle class or lower caste of the society. Because let's tell ourselves the truth. How many young people will get up when you're in school or when you're working and you're trying hard to make things meet and you're trying to push yourself out? Where are you going to find the time to get your PVC? That's number one. Number two, take for
Okay.
example, when I went into university to go and get my own PVC, I got my temporary voters card. Before I could leave Enugu to get my PVC, they told me it wasn't ready. Another thing when it comes to university strikes, for example, let's say, okay, students in the federal universities are the ones who get their PVC, etc. That is why we can see that there's a huge bulge of young people that have their PVCs. The ASU will strike, and while you have registered for your PVCs in your university environment in Enugu State, and then you want to vote in Enugu State, all of a sudden, the ASU strike happens, and then you are thrown back to your house in Lagos State. Meanwhile, the place where you are registered to vote is in Enugu, so you cannot vote. So these are
Yeah.
a lot of dynamics that happen, especially during election periods, and it's deliberate and intentional. A lot of things that happen. So there needs to be a seamless process for people to get their PVCs one, and for them to be able to transfer their PVCs to their place of abode whenever the election period is happening. Because it's not a simple process at all, because I've done both. So these are certain different things that do affect the turnout when it comes to what they call it, election periods.
Okay. So the
Yeah.
Senate last week held a public hearing on the proposed amendments of the Electoral Act 2010,
Yeah.
and many submissions were made on how the act can be improved on. So do you think Nigerian youths would become more interested in voting if the electoral system is strengthened? Or
Yeah.
are we going to see the same old nonchalant attitude?
No, see, before you can even say that you want young people to come out and how like put you run for elections or vote en masse, or even have women, try and run for elections in Nigeria. That electoral bill needs to go. It needs to be passed because we really have a system that churns out the worst of us. Because the system itself is not designed to sift the good from the bad. It's not designed to allow the best of us come out. And that
Yeah.
electoral bill is important towards ensuring that we have an electoral system that allows the best of the best and even promotes the best of the best. So once that is done, it now boils down to the civil society, the NGOs, etc., to do an education to the young people that this is what is in place, this is what's in place, these are the advantages that you have. Now come and take advantage of it. Because it makes no sense if there's a bill that basically allows you to do what you need to do, but the entire populace knows nothing about it. So it's a two-step process. That bill needs to be passed. It's very important if we do want to see a change in 2023, number one. Number two, when it is then passed, there needs to be an education all around the country that this is what this electoral bill, how will I put it, stipulates. Well, these are the advantages that we can take. And then we need young people to enter the political parties en masse because that is the only way that we can see some sustainable change when it comes to, the political scene and 2023 in general.
Interesting. So we have Sirap who also chipped in on the conversation about voter apathy witnessed amongst the youth, and said that the reason they gave was that INEC have not yet opened the voters registration, like you said, and as such, youth did not have the opportunity to register, and that going forward, Nigeria should hope to see improvement in the turnout of youths in subsequent elections when voter registration commences. So, do you share the optimism expressed by Syrup when voter registration commences next year? I think early next year will that favor youths in coming out in subsequent elections?
Yes, to be honest, I have to remain optimistic on this process. There needs to be a continuous voter registration. Ah, God, It's like I don't know how I can explain how tough it was for me to get my own PVC, the things that I went through.
I
Honestly,
also
I
got
don't
mine,
think
so I know it was stressful. The system
ah
needs to be worked on, revamped. Hmm.
it definitely needs to be, because I count myself as a consistent person. So other people that are like, you know what, in this life I can't stress myself, or other people that have so many issues to deal with, do you really want them to go and stand on that line for 1 week to get their PVC? We need to do something about the entire process. We need. I'm really really happy that the process is starting from next year January, so that people can now start actually getting their PVCs. Because to be honest, it's not just about talking on Twitter. We need to get time to get our PVCs, because that's how you get people that these are the people that are going to vote progressive, young, competent people into office. It's the first step. And now that INEC is basically opening up the floodgates, I think we need to take advantage of that and even more demand that they make the process as seamless and as fast as possible. That's my own take on it.
What would you suggest should be put in place to make it seamless and accessible to a lot of youths come 2021 when the registration opens?
To be honest, I feel one thing I feel like the INEC should do is partner with civil society organizations that the focus of their work is on the election matters and election process. I think that should do a lot of good, because they can form centers. INEC doesn't have to shoulder all the responsibility upon themselves to, do the voter. If they can partner with NGOs that can lend their manpower to do this, they can form centers all across the country, not just where the local government, etc., is, to also enable people that within that space to register for their PVC. Apart from that, I think, and then also head into the university communities, because really that is where the bulk of the young people are. It's just that ASU is on strike. I do really hope that they solve their issues as soon as possible, because these will be ideal places where you can literally open up the voter registration process, have people posted there, and people should come in and register for their PVCs. It's something they can also use the National Youth Service Corps. They can send core members down to INEC. If you're creating more centers, the core members can also be stationed there in the university centers or whatever centers that you're opening. I think INEC shouldn't look at it as a responsibility that they have to shoulder on their own. I think collaborations and partnerships with civil society organizations, etc., across the country is the way to go, so that they can, because they will even bring, civil society can even bring their own technical competence and expertise to the entire process to
Okay, Nafisa, can you hear me? So we'll hold on for Nafisa to um, get it back here and continue on that line of thoughts as we look at the youth, the voter apathy witnessed amongst the youths in the last by-election, the 2020 by-election that happened some weeks past, and the future of elections in Nigeria. Why are youths not so interested in voting? Why is the turnout so low? Especially we witnessed in Lagos State, people were complaining that the Sorosoke youths in Nigeria, who are always on social media advocating for a change in government, but when it comes to voting, they're nowhere to be seen. What can be done to change that attitude? We would like to hear your contribution also. What you think can be done to change the attitude of Nigerian youths towards elections? We want to hear from you. You can send your messages, and then we can take your comments. And then when our guest comes back in, we'll continue on the discussion on the questions we have on ground for her. Why now? Why? What needs to be changed? What needs to be put in place? What kind of partnership does INEC need to be able to move forward in terms of Nigerian elections, and then we have a successful elections come 2023? Okay. Okay, so we await that as our next. We try to reestablish connection with her, and then we continue here with us. Okay, so we sincerely apologize for that breaking transmission, but our guests at this point won't be able to reconnect and continue on this discussion. The discussion is the 2020 by-elections, voter apathy among Nigerian youths, and the future of elections in Nigeria. And this was seen in recent by-elections that happened across some of Nigerian states. And it was an opportunity, many people said, for the Nigerian youths to make their voices heard through the ballot, but they didn't show up in so many of those places, especially in Lagos, which was termed as the epicenter of the NSAS protest. Well, we have had today Nefisa Atiku, who is a lawyer and an author, and unfortunately she won't be able to continue, so we end it here. It's just you and I, but we would like you to drop your comments and tell us what needs to be done to improve the voter registration system we have in Nigeria, and then improve on the turnout of youths on election day. We'd like to hear your thoughts, and share this video also, and then we find a solution to this huge problem we have in Nigeria. So thank you so much for staying with Click Niger today. Youth Assembly will continue or return tomorrow at 10 a.m. West African time. But for now, you can listen to us on www.clickniger.net. And you can follow us on all of our social media platforms as it scrolls down here on the screen. My name is Sylvia Ishebe. Thank you for staying with me. We'll see you tomorrow.